And I want to take this to that T, the tailoring of communication, in two ways. Number one, oftentimes these populations that have encountered multiple barriers communicate in a different way. Unfortunately, sometimes they're resistant and they have high anxiety around healthcare, right? So they're less likely to give you the honest answer because you're like, oh, you're yet another person that won't care, right? But on the flip side, we have a huge opportunity to build a lot of trust with them very quickly by knowing that, addressing that, and saying, hey, let's move past that. So if I'll use an example that everybody can understand. Imagine you had a small child coming in, and Marco, if I remember, we met in person one time, about 6 feet tall. Is that right?
You're right.
Yeah. I think everybody can understand, okay, if I were going to tailor communication to a child, it's recommended get down on their level, right? Take a knee, put them in a chair and kind of squat down, whatever. And what you're doing there to the child is you're signaling, hey, you're shorter than me. There's nothing we can do about that, but I'm going to actually meet you where you are.
Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah. And now when we get into racism, people want to judge about the political repercussions or where it comes from or whatever. But how did you learn to get, quote unquote, get on their level, tailor the communication to them? What were some tricks you learned in there to build trust with that population?
Great call. First and foremost, it comes from, and you're hitting a lot of key points in terms of just your own mindfulness, right? A personal reflection in of yourself, like how you actually operate. And through that kind of path that I was taking in terms of my own personal journey, I mean, irrespective of what we wear, who we are, what skin color, how old, blah, 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 we're all humans. Literally, we are. And one of a patient of mine told me this years ago, you have all these degrees on the wall. You can't buy a single loaf of bread with them. And he was absolutely correct about that. Irrespective of what I know or blah, 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 I know.
Yeah.
And so when I come to that, there's another thing that always keeps me in mind, Josh, that between myself or someone, God forbid, knock on wood, who's on the street, you name it, the fine line, it really is a tenuous fine line between us. Someone's situation and my situation can flip just like that. And that always keeps me, and you said the correct word, humble. Like I'm here. Yes, I'm in a healthcare business. I'm still here trying to make a living, but you're hoarding my information. And it's what kind of helps me with that communication aspect, that irrespective. And once again, we've been in those places where you literally you can't even get cell reception to use Google Translate to
yeah.
Right? Like, and you know what? You'd be surprised on how well you communicate with someone, even if you don't speak the actual, right? Absolutely. So that's what kind of keeps me grounded in the sense of humility. And there is no real difference between us. The only difference is, I have a certain knowledge that could help you. Let's go, like there's like, let's share that. And that's what I use for my own communication.
That's awesome. Along with that, speaking of that, in the U.S., I've talked to a lot of chiropractors who work in the Midwest, and that's kind of our agricultural center of the country, right? And, they'll jokingly say, if a farmer ever tells you that he's hurt, you better believe him because they don't admit that. But if he ever hurts so bad he stopped working, that's a red flag.
Yeah.
Did you experience something similar in that mining town? Are they a lot of tough nuggets?
Josh, my friend, I've never had to, I was covering a maternity leave, and the doc was, she was a good foot shorter than me and probably, 30 or 40 pounds lighter. And I was stepping on it and seeing the individual she was manipulating. And I had to build up my own strength. So when you're talking about tough nuggets, absolutely, in the sense of just physically, just being able to make them pliable or to do what it is that you have to do. Absolutely. But also in that sense, you're absolutely, you're right, where they would keep on going. Yes, I might have this or that, but it's that mentality where there is no stopping. It's just
right.
Keep going.
Yeah. I think, when we talk about trust, that's another area too, because when those people with farmers, with miners, with NFL athletes or professional athletes, their body is their paycheck. Without it, they're done. And we're talking about things that would limit us. If you and I were in a different health profession, like mental health, for example, there's not as direct of a line between performance and medical care, right? They could have mental issues and still play at a certain level, but I don't want to discount that. I'm just saying, like, if you have a herniated disc, it's gonna be really hard to sprint as fast as you get paid to sprint, right? But with that, Was there any phrasing you learned, any terms that you learned to get them to accept the fact of, hey, I need you to back off or shut it down for a while, because moving forward, continuing this condition will just make things significantly worse?
Yeah. And I get this a lot with the quote unquote, like the weekend warriors, in a sense of,
Yeah.
I think it was pickleball. All of a sudden, pickleball came out of left field.
Yeah, that's right.
I would always preface this with patients that I rarely tell patients no or don't. As I'm a firm believer, you could still, there's something that you could always still do. It's particularly to make activity, but it's the part and parcel where I always start off with, your body best, whatever degrees or however long I've been in this field, I tip my hat because you are in your body. When someone says something is wrong, okay, there is something wrong. Let me do everything I can to figure that out. Once we work through that process, it's kind of telling them, hey, this is where that trust comes on in, letting them listen to what their body is telling them. I'm just the whisperer interpreting it, rephrasing it to them. You come to me for something, listen. I'm just trying to let you tune into what your body's telling you. Backing it off or taking off 20% or modification is a really big key, not only to reach their health goals. It really built that trust where it's like, okay, they're working in the mines 12 hours a day, 7 weeks in a row with 10 days off, there's not that much they can do to modify their activities. But even if it's that little bit every single day where they're building that more of that awareness inside of them and eventually listening to it, can really impact their livelihood.
So allowing that, again, going back, allowing them the autonomy to make that choice and say, it's not Marco's opinion. This is, I'll give you the honest assessment, but you make your own decisions. Yeah. It's funny because that ability to choose, I mean, even as simply as say, listen, I want to see you 12 times. I can see you 3 times a week for 4 weeks or twice a week for 6 weeks. Even though that's the same volume of treatment, the perception of choice sometimes empowers them so much to just trust you that you're not forcing anything. You know what I mean? Like, no, I don't care. I just know you need this much treatment. Or, do you want to do all your exercises and stretches here with me, or do you think you can do them at home? Giving them that choice to say, Mark, I'm not the kind of person who's going to do it at home. I'll just pay you to do it,
I would call that.
Yeah. But it matters to people, right? Because they can be honest and be a participant in their own healthcare. And I think that gets forgotten.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Trust Driven Insights, brought to you by TrustDrivenCare. Imagine a world where all your patient communication is in one place, seamless, effortless, and on autopilot. That's the power of Trust-Driven Care. If you're ready to streamline your practice, check out TrustDrivenCare.com and see what's possible. Trust-Driven Insights. Real conversations. Smarter care. Stronger business.